Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today, we will look at an introduction to using graphic polygons in your applications. Today, we're going to look at the graphic polygon command. The graphic polygon command has one mandatory parameter, which is a user-defined type. It has a number of other optional parameters, which define the color of the edge of the polygon, the fill color of the polygon, the style of fill, and the fill mode. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define a user-defined type, which contains the information to draw our polygon. Each point of the polygon is defined by an X and a Y coordinate. So we're going to set a type up for that initially. So the polypoint user-defined type will define our X and our Y coordinates. We're also going to create an array which will define our polygon. So we've now defined two user-defined types. The poly array has as its first element a count. This is the number of corners in our polygon. It has a second parameter, which is an array of polypoints. So what we're defining here is a polygon with basically 3 corners. And we're storing the X and Y coordinate of each of those corners. In order to display our polygon on screen, we need to either have a graphics window or a graphics object on which to draw it. Now, since we're using the console compiler here today, we won't have the option of a graphics object, but we do have access to a graphics window. The graphics window can be created by either the console compiler or the Windows compiler. So in order to define our graphic window, we first need a handle for it. And now we're actually going to create the graphics window itself. We'll give the window a title, and we'll tell the program where on screen our window is going to appear. That coordinate's 300 by 300. We can also tell the program how wide the window is going to be and how high. So we'll go for 680 by 580. And when this window gets created, we'll send the details to our hwin as our handle. Now we use the graphics attach command. Now I'm going to use the redraw option here because as we'll be sending several messages to our graphics window, using the redraw option actually speeds up the display. If you don't use the redraw option, every time you do a graphics command, it will attempt to add this to the graphics window. However, if we've got redraw set on, it will not actually attempt to redraw the window until we tell it to. That way our output will be very much faster. So we're going to create a small function whose job it will be to draw polygons. Now we're going to set up some local variables to keep track of what we're doing. We're going to first of all set up a user-defined type as our poly array type. The poly array, as you'll remember, is the array of points to define the polygon itself. For a polygon, you can have a minimum of 2 corners and a maximum of 1024. What we're going to do first of all here is we're going to have a polygon with 3 corners. So we'll want to define on screen where our X and Y coordinates of the polygons begin to start, and I'm going to put a size variable in as well. And we will initially give them some values. So our polygon is going to start at 250 pixels in and 50 pixels down from the top of the graphics window. So what we have to do now is we have to populate our user-defined type. Because we're going to be using the name of our user-defined type, I'm going to use the prefix command to save a bit of typing. For those of you who haven't used the prefix command before, what it does is at compile time it will take the section of text that is in quotes here and it will put that at the beginning of each of the lines following. It's just a construct to save you some typing, but it does make the code look a little tidier. So we're going to set the first part of our user-defined type, which is the number of corners that our polygon has, to be 3. And we now need to set each of the coordinates to the value we wish. So since this is an array, we're setting the x element of the first coordinate to be the same as our starting position. We'll now set the y coordinate of our first coordinate to be the y starting position. We then have to set the value of each of the coordinates. So that's the second coordinate and the third coordinate. Now, having set the values of the x and y coordinates of each of the corners of our polygon, we now have to tell the program to actually draw the polygon. And all we need to do is give it the name of the user-defined type. And since we used the redraw command when we created our graphics window, we can then tell the program to go ahead and draw the polygon. And there is our polygon. It has 3 corners and 3 sides. Now, we haven't given details to the program of what colour we want our polygon to be. So let's put some of the optional parameters in. We can quite happily ensure that the outside of a polygon is drawn in black, and we'll put a blue colour in for the fill. And if we want a solid fill, we give it a parameter of 0. So if we try running that now, we'll see that we indeed have a blue triangular polygon. If you don't want to use the solid fill, you can change it to one of the other options and you'll get one of the hash fills. However, let's stick with the solid one for the moment. So that's a 3-sided polygon. So how can we expand that to make it larger? Well, we'll increase the size of our polyarray to 4 elements. And we'll tell the program we're now using a count of 4 corners, and we'll need to put in the coordinates of the 4th corner. And if we run that now, it will indeed draw a square, which has 4 corners. We can increase this and go up to a 5-sided polygon by simply adding another coordinate. So now we have 5 coordinates set up for a polygon, and if we draw that now, we are now up to a 5-sided polygon. Quite straightforward and easy to draw on screen. If we wish to do more than a single polygon, we can duplicate our code and draw a second one. And we'll take our graphics redraw out and we will set some new starting coordinates for our second polygon. I've made these slightly different to the original ones so that the second polygon will actually appear inside the first. We'll again make this a 5-sided polygon, but slightly smaller than the original one. And if we put our Graphic Polygon command in to draw the polygon, and then a redraw command to tell the program to render it on screen. We'll change the colour in this one, and we'll make the fill colour red. And if we run this now, we'll see we now have two polygons. The red one being slightly inside the second one. So if you're doing something elaborate with polygons, you can quite happily draw them individually on screen and render them all at the one time on screen. There seems to be no limit to the number of polygons you can actually draw, but there is a limit to the number of corners you can have on a polygon. But with a simple triangular or rhombus shaped polygon, you can do a great deal. Anything from charting to graphs to 3D terrain drawing. This has been a very short introduction to graphical polygons within PowerBasic, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.